I'm Lee Newman. This is Coffee with Lee. For the next hour, I'll be interviewing the employees, professional employees I might add, the airevac here in LaGrange, Georgia. Stay with me.
When you earn your GED diploma, the barriers in your life fall. Earn your GED diploma and begin your brighter future.
Welcome back. As you know, I'm Lee Newman. This is Coffee with Lee. I'm out on Aratron Parkway. I got that right too. Aratron Parkway, not Boulevard. And I'm with a company that has come in relatively new. I suppose you've been here about a year. And sitting with me is Shane Owens, who is the program director. The company is the airevac Lifesaver Helicopter Company with numerous employees of various talents.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been here, Shane?
We placed our base here in end of October of this past year. Like I said, started operations actually October 28th, serving Troup County and the surrounding areas. airevac Life Team, the company as a whole, has been around since 1985.
And how many places do you have throughout the United States? I know there's numerous places that you have.
Yes, sir. Currently, we've got 95 bases in 14 different states.
Okay, so about any place a person travels, you would be available to take care of them in 14 different states.
Yes, sir.
Now, what do you do?
I, as the program director, manage pretty much the day-to-day operations of the base here, as well as market in our service area to the hospitals, EMS services, fire departments. Deal with any issues, as well as build relationships with these departments, do education with these departments on utilizing our services and how to utilize our services.
Okay, so if I'm out on the interstate and have a terrible wreck, and they need to send me to a trauma center somewhere other than LaGrange, Columbus, Atlanta, some of the major cities that have the facilities to take care of the problems that I have, problems that were created for me during this accident. And the EMT on the ground says, well, let's get him out of here and let's take him to Atlanta. So he would call you, or does he call 911?
Typically what happens in most counties, most situations, is the EMS responders on the scene will make the determination that this patient needs to be flown to a trauma center. Their injuries warrant going to a trauma center, and they would benefit from air transport. We have it set up through in most counties and most areas where they contact their 911 center. Their 911 center in turn calls our dispatch center, and we're dispatched to that location.
All right, it doesn't have to be a wreck even, really, does it? If a person has a heart attack at home or some other problem at their home, you guys would be available on the call of EMS.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and really, it's heart attack and stroke victims can benefit greatly as well, especially in the rural areas, getting those patients to the appropriate facilities.
All right, and but do you get that call from 911, or does it come directly? They call your facility here directly?
Majority of the time, they come from 911. The EMS services or fire departments, will in turn have their dispatch centers, 911 centers, contact our dispatch center, which is located in West Plains, Missouri, which in turn dispatches us to the location, or the closest of that.
Okay. Obviously, it works.
It does, and there are protocols and guidelines, and you'd actually be pretty surprised in how well it works. And a lot of times, when we go out and do the education with these different programs, is we try to educate them to do what we call early activation. If they get dispatched to a call that they know sounds like it has the potential where the patient may benefit from air transport, to go ahead and actually launch us. That way they get the call, they say, hey, go ahead and get airevac or en route. We'll go ahead, they're 911 center at the same time that they're being dispatched and an ambulance is en route. They'll call us, they'll let us know to get in the air and be en route. We'll actually be en route to the scene, and oftentimes, get there at the same time, if not sometimes before the ambulance does, to save that time.
Well, in any case, you would certainly be there by the time that the EMS or the EMTs on the ground had the person stabilized and ready for transport. Normally, you would be there before, I believe, wouldn't you?
Oftentimes, and even a good example of that, just yesterday, we were requested to a call here within the county, and we launched at the same time the ambulance was en route, and we got to the patient at the same time that the ambulance did.
Okay, and speaking of county, how many counties do you cover from this facility right here?
And it's easier to say we try to focus on a 70-mile radius, and then we try to place bases kind of on those borders and outlying borders of those 70-mile radiuses to create overlapping coverage.
And state lines actually have, you don't have to be concerned about state lines. You can go from Georgia to Alabama if necessary.
Yes, sir. All our personnel are licensed in Alabama, as well as our service is licensed in Alabama.
Okay. Now, about your building up here, you have how many people there at all times?
Our normal crew consists of a pilot, a nurse, and a paramedic. So you have a crew of 3 on ready, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that are here to respond. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's 3 people that's available to make these calls. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the biggest advantage, that the helicopter provides us in patient care oftentimes is speed and the ability to go from point A to point B. Without any interruptions, we can go straight line distance to that facility. We can fly from here to Columbus in approximately 15 minutes and have someone in a trauma center. Be in Atlanta in approximately 20 to 25 minutes.
So 15 minutes to Columbus, and it would take an ambulance 30, 35 minutes?
Probably closer to 35, 40 minutes. I personally live in Columbus and make that trip every day, so.
Okay, so you know how long it does take.
Very familiar with it.
And I think it's great that LaGrange, Georgia now has got to the point that they have a service like yours.
I believe, this area, you're in a location where you're between Columbus and Atlanta. You've got a level 2 trauma center in Columbus. You've got level 1 trauma centers in Atlanta. And this area and the surrounding counties benefit greatly from having air medical transport close by to be able to get those trauma victims.
Right. Is there anything else, Shane, that you'd like for the viewing audience to know about your facility here?
We're really excited about being in Troup County. I think, offering our services, and we're excited about the opportunities we have to be here. Like I said, I think the pilot and the crews coming up, I think you'll be able to get an even better view of who the people are that are here serving the community, and maybe even give you a little better view of the aircraft and what equipment we do have, and the different roles that they play.
All right, it's been fun talking with Shane, and we've got some other folks coming up that's going to be very interesting too, and I think you'll enjoy. And turn the TV up so you can hear what we're saying, and take into consideration that if you're there, how do you want to be handled? I'm Lee Newman. I'll be right back.
I'm lucky. I get to do something I love. How many of you think homework is just as important as teamwork? I help keep kids in school. Good, and that's the name of the game. My name is LaDainian Thomason. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United.
Welcome back. I'm Lee Newman. This is Coffee with Lee. We had Shane Owens on here, who is the director of this airevac life team out on Aratron Parkway. Got a lot of information from him. Now we've got the pilot. This is the guy that you're trusting your life with, who's going to land that helicopter, and he's going to pick it up, and he's going to take you wherever you need to be at the nearest trauma center. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Lee. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to have you.
Good.
Thanks
Good
for
to be
coming
here.
on. Kevin, I know we've been joking here about this thing last week or earlier in this week, and now we come to this. But seriously, you're going to fly this thing somewhere, they tell me?
I can fly this thing everywhere.
How long have you been a pilot?
Been a pilot going on a little over 17 years now.
I couldn't believe it because he doesn't look that old. Go back, if you will, Kevin, and give us a little bit of history of your flying experience.
1992, was down at Fort Rucker, U.S. Army. Learned to fly in the Army. Actually started my civilian career in 1997 with the Southern Company, flying executives around. Got hired away from them in 2000 with Health South. Flew with them until 2004. I got deployed, went overseas with the Army, and come back. And when I got back, I've been flying EMS ever since. So going on a little over 7 years as an EMS flyer. Right
now, I'd like to just not elaborate, but go into how it functions and who gives you your instructions and where you land and where you take off and what you do during this time. I guess you could get in sort of a panic mode if somebody is critically injured and they're expecting you to quickly, but it only goes a certain speed. But it's probably twice as fast or 3 times as fast as traveling by automobile or an ambulance to one of these trauma centers.
Oh, absolutely. And once you, especially the rural environment which we operate out of sometimes, there's times when we even beat the responding ambulance to a scene that we've been called to because, you know, people have called in and reported as, you know, a horrific accident or whatever. So sometimes we even beat the ambulance out there.
And you have coordinates that you already know or are already in a GPS piece of equipment of some type that you have in there, that when you leave from here, you know where your landing place is going to be. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. You know,
normally
they get the call. Our dispatch center verifies their coordinates, or we recreate our own with crossroads and communities, etc. They transfer those to me, usually on the radio after I've already taken off, because I know what general direction I'm going. They'll give us coordinates, and then en route we call, and usually the first responders, EMS, fire, whoever's out there is going to give us a detailed description of our LZ right before we get there.
Yeah. If I'm out there or anybody's out there and they have an accident or they have a heart attack or whatever's happening to them, that you know exactly where you're going so that you can get there quickly and put that thing down safe and take off safe. How much space do you have to have for the helicopter, considering telephone lines, power lines, trees, houses, any structures?
Yes, well, all factors considered, usually we need about a 75-foot by 75-foot square, which is relatively small.
And you'd make that judgment, I guess, once you got there.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
As the pilot, you look it over, said, yeah, I can safely sit down right here, and you would pick the nearest spot to the patient.
Yes, sir.
You could get.
Yes, we can get relatively close to the ambulance or the house or whatever wherever the patient is. And usually, not only do I have to plan on getting into this space, I have to plan on getting out once I've loaded that patient.
Yeah. And 75 square feet, 75
foot by
square.
75,
yeah.
Yes, sir. And, you know, according to how big that patient is and how much they weigh, et cetera, plays a large part in that decision.
Oh, the weight of the patient?
Yes, sir.
Well, you wouldn't have a problem with me, I don't guess. I mean,
No,
a
sir,
little thin guy, but you get some big heavy guy, you know, it's could be a
all
problem.
part of, yes, sir, it's all part of the planning process. All of those figures and things are running through my mind. Once I get there, I'm looking at the LZ, I'm thinking about the patient weight and where the wind is. A lot of different factors are going in, and they get easier and quicker to, I guess, disseminate once you've done it for a while. And 7 years is a good while out here.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the call goes in from EMT to 911 to Missouri, back to 911, then over to you. Is this call by telephone or is this by radio?
Actually, the call is by telephone, and yeah, you think, well, good gracious, we got to call all the way out to Missouri. Well, whether you call into Missouri or you call in downtown LaGrange, it's going to take the same length of time, right?
Sure.
And actually, what they do in the West Plains is they contact us by radio once they've called them, and it's got a lot to do with what kind of status the weather is. Now, if we're on a green status, they can call us, and whenever they call us, they're going to tone us out, and we're going.
What's the green status?
Green status is everything's good to go. No weather phenomenon within a 70 nautical mile radius is actually what I use to put us on a yellow status if the weather was bad or questionable in one of those areas, like Columbus. If the weather was in Columbus was questionable. See, I don't ever know where I'm going when I get that call.
But what am I supposed to do if we got bad weather and I need a helicopter?
If you got real bad weather and it's bad enough, it's below 800 feet and 3 miles, you're not going to get one from anywhere. That's federal.
Boy, he's
federal
real
minimum.
Encouraging this morning, isn't he? Here in LA. So.
You know, you don't want to put 4 lives on the line,
Well,
including the patient.
You're exactly right.
With bad weather.
So what I do, I guess I'm going to travel by ambulance or
You're going
fire truck or any way that they can get me there.
Yes, sir, you will.
Well, at least I'm going somewhere. And I guess immediately, if it's ground travel, I'd go to the hospital here in LaGrange.
Yes, sir.
And when there was more care than I could get out there, and then when the weather was permitting, you guys probably take me from there.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
If I still had to go.
Yeah, there's not really that much bad weather phenomenon out there for big blocks of time.
He tells me
like
this
that.
just after we had a snowstorm. Everybody was iced in. I couldn't go anywhere in my car. So.
Well, we can go places in the helicopter. You know, we have to worry about the
not
snow.
the snow. You can't.
Oh, yeah.
It's under what? Did you say 800 feet?
800 feet. Yeah, but we can fly in snow. We can fly in snow. Put the snow baffles on and we're off.
I noticed on your helicopter, and I thought they were heavy, but it's evidently not heavy. It has a little dolly sort of under it that's hydraulic, and you raise up the door completely, and this thing lifts the helicopter up a little bit, and then electrically, it takes it outside. You set it back down. You do that yourself. And then once everybody is there and they have the things on there, you crank it and you're ready to go. And that takes, from what I saw the other day, about 4 minutes.
Yes, sir.
From the time you really start in here and you get the door up and you move the thing out here and everybody's ready and they're ready to close the door, step in, close the doors. According to my estimation and my watch, it was about 4 minutes. Well, is there anything else about this helicopter that you think the viewing audience really needs to know? How safe is this thing? Is it serviced often? Who checks it? And you do a pre-flight check, I'm sure, before you sit down in that seat. Is that a complicated thing? Does it take any time? Well, it takes under 4 minutes, the way I saw it. So it's pretty quick in my experience with airplanes, and not helicopters, but airplanes. Is you got to check the fuel to be sure there's not water in that fuel. Of course, your batteries are working if it cranks. Or do you have something that starts it?
Well, what actually happens is when I come in 6:30 in the morning, I come out here and I spend about anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, according to what's been done to the helicopter, pre-flighting, taking fuel samples, and checking my electronic stuff. Okay. So yeah, that 4 minutes is because I'm cocked and ready. I've already laid the groundwork. This machine's ready. I've already reviewed all the documentation on it, all the maintenance logs.
So they aren't going to load me up on that thing and then sit there with dead batteries and ain't going to crank.
That's right. That's right. Because I'm not going anywhere in it without it being pristine.
I understand. And
as far as the maintenance, they do so much maintenance on these as a 135 Part 135 operator, that's a FAA thing. They overdo everything.
Well, and you being the pilot, I would assume that you naturally are totally in charge from the time you crank that helicopter until that patient is unloaded, wherever they are. You're in charge. Everybody else works for you. They have their jobs to do, but if somebody stumbles, you're in charge. You gotta take it up.
It is. Once the helicopter leaves the ground, I am the deciding factor. Now, my crew, for any reason, any of the crew members, me, the flight nurse, the flight paramedic, at any time, they have a 51% rule. If they are not comfortable, if they don't feel like what we're doing at any part is safe, any crew member at any time can say, okay, I'm done for this one. I'm through.
Anything else that you think that the audience needs to know in specific about, not in specific, because we're going to go into that a little later on, but in general about the helicopter and your ability to manage that helicopter and see that these people are taken safely to the trauma center?
Yeah, these aircraft, especially with airevac, they're pristine. The helicopter pilots that they hire got high time. Lot of hours, 1,500, 2,000 flying hours in that range right there before they can even come to work at the EMS. Okay. And a lot of training.
You've heard it from Kevin, the pilot on the aircraft you see behind me. He's in charge. He takes it through. I'll be right back with a couple of more people. They're going to be shuffling you around. If you're hurt, get to know them. You can call them by name. I'm Lee Newman. This is Coffee with Lee, and we'll be right back.
Welcome home, man.
Welcome back. Lee Newman again. Coffee with Lee. Got a firefighter coming up with me now. Dusty Hellman. Dusty is the guy on the ground that assists the helicopter. I assume the word assist would be used to sit down. Dusty is the person who has prepared me to be loaded onto this helicopter and taken to wherever they think they need to take me to be sure that I live, I arrive alive, Dusty, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you
Glad
for
to have
being
you.
here. Thank you for getting me here.
Short notice, wasn't it?
Yeah, short notice. On duty today and told me to come over here, but that's fine. I'm glad to come anytime you call.
Well, you know, you come over here and sit with me and have some coffee and have a nice conversation.
sir.
You don't
Yes,
have to
sir.
worry about running out here to these fires
Yes,
or these
sir.
accidents, do you?
Yeah, no, sir. Not right now. Not for the next 5-10 minutes.
Okay, something that's still on my mind, Dusty, and I've talked to a couple of the people before you, the pilot especially, in coordinates. If a helicopter's called in to an accident or whatever it may be,
Yes, sir.
to take a person from that accident location to the nearest trauma system, you're the guy on the ground who calls for that helicopter, I understand.
Yes, sir.
Says, we need a helicopter because we got to take him somewhere else. How do you determine that?
First, it starts out with the first 911 call. When 911 calls us and they tell us what we call the mechanism of injury. If it's a rollover, vehicle rollover, person trapped in a car, fell from so many feet, say off a house or something, we go ahead and tell 911 to go ahead and call and get air evac en route. And they go ahead and pull it out, get it cranked up, and they start on the way before we even get there. So they're actually in the air before we even.
So you really know. You really know through your training.
Yes, sir.
If I need to go somewhere else other than LaGrange.
Yes, sir.
Or if I don't.
Yes, sir.
If I'm fine here. And you then busy yourself with preparing that person for the arrival of the helicopter. Then you turn the patient over to the team that's on the helicopter, and they take them from there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the good thing about it is we work so well with them because we've got to know them over the years, you know. And a lot of times we've already got most of the patient care done, but they're more advanced than us, so they bring more advanced care to the scene. Not to get technical, but they can do different airway maneuvers that we can't do. So they do bring a lot more advanced equipment when they land on that scene. So they come and get in the back of the ambulance with us, and for a brief period of time, less than 2 to 3 minutes, they get their stuff ready. If they have to do that advanced care, they go ahead and do it then. So it's
well,
a
I
good
know you,
additive.
and I know you're very good at what you do.
Yes, sir.
So that restriction, is that because of law, or is that because of knowledge?
Knowledge and protocols. It all depends on what we call a medical director, the doctor that's always over a certain department or agency. And with air evac, they're trained a lot more than we do in medically, and that's why they get to do a little bit extra than what we do. And they also, and then sometimes it's equipment, but us, we do it pretty much almost to their care, pretty much exactly as their care, but they can just tweak it a little bit, as you could say.
Okay, when you make the decision that you have to call, who do you call? And don't you dare say Ghostbusters.
No, sir.
Who do you call? When you've made the decision
Yes, sir.
that you need the helicopter, who do you call?
We get on the radio and we communicate with 911, and we tell them what we need the nearest and the most available helicopter en route air transport.
Okay.
And since air evac is located in LaGrange now, most of the time it is them. So they get the call, and as we drive to the call, there's certain points in the city we already know we can fly people out. We've already flown so many people out, we know where we're going to land. So if we get a call, say in the middle of the city, you know, say, you know, Troop Street, we could either come here or, you know, Callaway Stadium at the soccer fields, you know, or Whitesville Road Middle School in front out there. So we kind of got coordinates of where we would land, but we're also equipped with GPS in our fire trucks. So we can hit the GPS and we can send them exactly where we're at that time.
Well, now I know that the fire department does pre-fire planning.
Yes, sir.
And I would assume that you probably do some pre-planning about this also.
Yes, sir.
As to where, because I know they do,
Yes, sir.
and you must too. So actually in your mind, when you make that call, you know where that helicopter's coming
Yes, sir.
to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When we make that call, before we even get there, we've pretty much said, this fire truck is going to the scene to do the patient care, but we want another fire truck to go to the LZs, what we call it, the landing zone, to help set it up before we get there.
All right, and when you make that call and they say they can't, just half a mile away, you don't put me on a stretcher and go running down the
No,
street.
sir. No, sir.
On the wheels, you load me into the ambulance, you take me to
Yes,
that
sir.
helicopter, and then I go from there. And this is just a matter of seconds or minutes
sir.
that this
Mm-hmm.
happens. Dusty, that cleared up a lot of things for me.
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking your
No problem.
time so quickly to come out and talk to me.
No problem.
I'm Lee Newman. Coffee with Lee. We'll be right back.
Cotton balls. Duct tape. Spoon. Needle. Thread. Scalpel.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
All right, we're back. I'm Lee Newman. This is Coffee with Lee. Been hearing back and forth about the things that go on with the airevac. We've talked to the pilot. We've talked with the manager of the station. We have with us now a guest that sort of surprisingly was brought in. We wanted to put her on the camera. Her name is Jennifer Gardini. Jennifer had a specific problem at the hospital and had to be moved from there by airevac to another area. And I do not know the story, so I'm going to let Jennifer tell you that story. Good morning, Jennifer, and thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you being here. It's a beautiful baby.
Thank you.
All right, let's take up where the decision was made that you needed to be airlifted to another facility to take care of the problems that you had and the problems that you did have. So, in general, could you just fill us in on that? Tell us the story.
On Sunday, May 9th, my cardiologist had come into my room after I had been admitted the night before to let me know that my pregnancy has caused an issue with my heart and that I had to be transported out because they could not care for me here. And so they had to call in air evac to evac me out because an ambulance was no option. This was a life or death situation.
And where did they take you from there?
They took me to Crawford Long, Emory Healthcare, Midtown.
Okay.
Air evac showed up and picked me up from my room, and Michelle is one of them. She was very, very good with me. I was scared to death because I'm a young 28-year-old that had a heart attack due to this problem, and she did everything she could to make me feel comfortable. They brought me to the airport here by ambulance to be loaded onto the helicopter, and when we took off from here, we landed in Atlanta at Crawford Long, and she had told me that she was going to stay with me to make sure that I was okay. And so they took me into the heart lab, the cath lab, and when I went to sleep, she was holding my hand, and when I woke up, she was holding my hand. And when I woke up, they had told me that either I deliver my child and have open heart surgery, or me and my child both could have lost our lives. So I had a condition that pregnancy very rarely causes called SCAD, which is spontaneous coronary artery dissection. One of my arteries on the left lower quadrant of my heart fell apart, and that part of the heart was not working at all. So they wheeled me back, they delivered my little girl, and I got wheeled into another operating room, and they spent 6 hours doing open heart surgery to do a double bypass. After the bypass was over, my recovery from there was very well. I was home 5 days later, and me and her now are doing very well. She is a healthy 8-month-old baby, and I'm doing well myself.
Well, that's great. Now, this just goes back and summarizes some of the things that we've been saying previously on the show about the quality, the experience, the training of the individuals that will be taking care of you should something happen. In this case, it was not out on the highways, it was not at home, it was from the hospital where the decision was made by the doctor. And it's a success story. So we're real happy that Jennifer came by to fill us in on this. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. Can I say one thing?
Yes, you may.
I would like to thank these people. Without their job, I would not know where I would be. If it wasn't for them, I could very well possibly not be here today, me and her both.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, because that's been one of the concerns about the quality and the training of the people who come to take care of you. So that helps considerably. I'm Lee Newman. I'll be right back.
In 1977, an 8-year-old boy picked up the game of golf from his father. The odds of that same boy then making it to the US and European pro golf tours, 1 in 7 million. The odds of the Big Easy winning the US Open twice, 1 in 1.2 billion. The odds of him having a child diagnosed with autism, 1 in 110. Ernie Els encourages you to learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back, Lee Newman, Coffee with Lee. I have Chrissy Blankenship and Blake Helms with me now, and these are the two that they're going to take you away from the EMS, and they're going to handle you from there. I suppose they pick you up and put you on this thing, and then they lift you up and they stick you in this little thing, which is very small to begin with, but we'll go into that a little later on. Now, Chrissy, I see the leather patch on your uniform there, that you are a registered nurse.
I am.
I did not know that until a few minutes ago when I looked over and read it. That's impressive, to be going out to have a registered nurse come and sort of gather me up and see that I'm taken care of. And you got some good words from the lady before that was on here. That's sort of an example of how you treat everybody, I assume.
We do.
Blake Helms, he's the flight paramedic. He's another one that has a big hand in taking care of you if you have a real problem. We've gone into the pilot, finding the place to put the chopper down. We've talked to one of the people who were handled by this organization. We've talked to the fire department on making the decision to where the helicopter is going to land. Now we're there, okay? The pilot, Kevin, he puts the helicopter down as close as he can. The two of you get out of that thing and you take over at that point. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say we just take over. We try to integrate ourselves into you know, what the EMS has already done.
You're already bandaged up. The guys on the ground have done everything that they can. But from that point on, my welfare is in the hands of you two people along with that pilot. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct.
Okay. And you already know where you're going to take me. All right?
And it's all dependent upon your injuries as well. So if we feel like you're going to be better served by a level 1 facility, then we may take you to Atlanta. Where if we feel you're going to be okay, go into a level 2 facility, then we'll take you to Columbus.
Okay, now that's a bit of a change, because the EMT, I thought, had already determined the level of my injuries or sickness, and he hasn't at that point told you where to take me. You make that decision actually when you get there and you see everything that's wrong with me.
Absolutely. And a lot of times we have an idea of where we're going to go, but sometimes once we get on scene, then that decision can change.
Okay, and you make the decision then?
Yes, as a team, we make the decision.
And we'll have to go along with him too, along with
everybody
standing there and they're discussing this thing, you know, and I'm dying here.
Well, like, you know, I think Kevin and some other people talked before, sometimes we can get on scene about the same time as the ambulance does. So we may be all getting to this patient at the same time. You know, so we're discovering these injuries as a team and figuring them out together. So, you know, we're going to develop our plan of where we're going to go, you know.
All right, you're there. you have taken over the situation.
Right.
In coordination with everyone else who's there.
Absolutely.
And you've loaded the patient, being myself or whoever it is, into the helicopter. Kevin's away to Atlanta, Columbus, wherever the trauma center is that all of you feel that I need to go to. Now, during this flight, what are you doing? Where are you in this helicopter? What are you doing for me at that point?
When we initially get on scene, we have a cardiac monitor that monitors your heart, your respirations, how well you're breathing. So that monitor comes out of the aircraft with us, and so we actually place that monitor on you while we're in the back of the ambulance.
Okay.
So we start monitoring your vital signs almost immediately from the time we get there. And so when we actually load you in, we continue that monitoring. So we have the capability to do all your vital signs. If we have to intubate you to help you breathe, then we have a machine in the helicopter that will actually breathe for you. They call it a ventilator. So we have the capabilities to do that as well and monitor all of that.
Now, I was looking at that, and that, I guess, is some of the wires and things just coming out of the back up there.
It's actually right here, this orange piece of equipment right here.
You know, I got a real problem with it. I got a real problem with Blake here. Nothing that I say works for him, you know, it's somewhere else. And I'm glad you do, because I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm trying to find out.
Well, I knew they were going to go over the aircraft later, and you know, and we'll be able to show the equipment.
You'll show me
absolutely
where it comes from, either back, front, somewhere. But it comes from somewhere.
Right.
So now we're going to leave him out of this conversation. You're going to hook me up to these things, and you monitor my heart, blood pressure, breathing, these type things during the flight. I'm just, you know, what if I have another heart attack on the way down here?
We're equipped with a lot of medicines in the helicopter as well. So we can actually run what they call a 12-lead EKG to see if you're actually having a heart attack. We're trained to actually read those EKGs to determine which area of the heart that could be affected. And if there's medicines that you need to be given for that, then we have those on the aircraft.
Okay. So you can do the same thing to me as the hospital would do.
I typically call this helicopter a mini ICU or a mini ER room. We have pretty much the same capabilities that they would in a hospital, other than we're just in something that flies around.
Look, it's really great of both of you to be on the show with me.
Thank you for having us.
And this will put a lot of confidence in the community that should you arrive, find a place to park, and you get out and start taking care of people.
Well, we definitely feel very blessed to be here.
Well, that comfort is great for the community. Not only this one, but within the ranges that you fire. And it was nice for me to know that he can set that helicopter down, 75-foot square thing, because I was worried that you guys might roll me down the street, you know, 300 or 400 or 500 yards or a couple of miles to stick me up in this little thing. And I still don't know how I'd get in there prone, but you know, a little later on I may try that. I may get on one of those things and just lay down. Is there anything else that the public needs to know about your care?
I think the firefighter that was on earlier said that, you know, we're higher trained. We do have more ability to come in and help people, but you know, I do want to emphasize that it is a team thing. You know, we could not do our job without the firefighters, the EMTs, you know, the ground crews. They really facilitate the whole process by calling us. You know, we have what we call a golden hour, you know, and that's the time from, you know, injury or whatever happened to getting you to the hospital and getting definitive treatment. You know, and they really, you know, make it happen. You know, so like I said, it's a big team effort. You know, between the ground crews, us, and the hospitals. You know, that all goes into, you know, making good outcomes for patients.
So there's a lot of professional, well-trained people involved in any emergency that comes about that you people have to arrive to. Thanks so much for being with me. My congratulations for what you do. I'm Lee Newman. This is Coffee with Lee, and I'll be right back. This, ready? Ready? Go get it.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
I'm in here.
You getting there?
What do you mean I'm getting there?
We're going to get you pushed back a little bit.
You're not going to slide me forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to undo your arm so that you can talk now.
And usually I'm going to get up in here and just make sure you're situated right. All right, we got you in, buckled in, and ready to go. What kind of questions do you have?
Well, I got more comments, I think, probably than questions. It's a little bumpy getting in, but it wasn't bad. Now I'm stretched out here real good. My feet are all the way to the front. Actually, I guess if I turn my head, I can see, but as the audience can see, all of this opens up, and it sort of puts you in feet first. Now, Blake, as soon as you have figured out, you already know what's wrong with me, of course, so you know what to hook me up to, I guess.
That's correct. As we move into the aircraft, once we get the patient loaded in here, my partner will come around, and she usually sits to my right. We have a bunch of equipment in here. Like we were mentioned earlier, when we're in the ambulance, we're going to hook you up to blood pressure, cardiac monitor, and pulse and breathing and all that good stuff. And once we get in here, we're going to continue that monitoring over here. If for some reason we were having to breathe for you, I think you mentioned earlier where the ventilator was. We have a ventilator right here that we could breathe for you, so that way we're not having to manually breathe for you. We have ways of hooking up, just like in hospitals. We have a medication pump, so if you had some different drugs that we were administering to you, we could kind of hands-free do that, set it up over there. And the main thing is en route, we're going to be continuously monitoring, making sure that medications we're giving you are working, and that you're improving or at least not getting any worse. When we're going to notify the hospital and go ahead and give them a report so they know what to expect, and basically, put you on oxygen and everything else while we're going there.
So actually, what we discussed, this is it is what it is. It's you're stuck in here, and they hooked you up to these machines, and they're preserving your life until they get you to the trauma center, and I assume this stuff is removable, so when you're taking me inside, this goes with me, and then I'm transferred from this equipment to the equipment in the trauma center.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm cool with that. I think I could
So do you have plenty of room for your feet?
I do, yeah. I'm a little long here, but...
Do you have room to the left or right a little bit around the hip area?
Well, the door's not closed. Oh, yeah, the hip area, I'm fine, yeah. But
now, see, if you really wanted the view, I can sit you up, so that way, watch your elbow. That way, when we're flying, you'll be able to sit up and see where we're going. You'll be able to look out, and you can look to your left and right out the windows. And
but I would assume if I'm on here, I'm not going to be interested in a view, am I?
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on what condition you're in.
Yeah, I guess probably it does. But at least I know that I'm going to be quickly taken to a place that can further secure my life.
Absolutely. We will get you there.
Sounds good to me. We'll be right back. I'm Lee Newman. This Coffee with Lee.
What gets you moving?
Because when you get moving an hour a day,
You fuel your body,
and your mind,
whether you like to throw around the football,
play frisbee in the park,
or dance in your room.
moving every day helps give you a healthy body and mind.
And that makes you part of a winning team. Hey, that was my line. Get up and play an hour a day, Doc.
check out how to be a player at letsmove.gov.
Head online to get tips on great ways to get moving every day.
That's www.letsmove.gov.
Welcome back. I'm Lee Newman. This is Coffee with Lee. We're at the AirEvac Life Team headquarters in LaGrange, Georgia. Now, the next guest is Missy Wellborn. Now, she has something that is particularly interesting to me, and I know it will be to everyone in the viewing audience. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Now, you've stood back and listened to me talk to all of the others.
Yes, sir.
And we've gone through, I think, all of the program that is offered to someone who is ill or has had an accident and has to be moved by helicopter to another location.
Right.
I still have a problem with that pilot on where he's going to land that thing. I just want to be sure that he understands completely that if it's me, he's, you know, if it's 25 feet, he's to get on in there. And
yeah,
I made that real clear with him and the, you know, the guy on the ground, the fire guy, you know, get me there. And I think by now I have trained the paramedic as to where all of the equipment is. I've tried to instruct him. So, but we'll go through that a little later on too. Sometimes he might miss something, and I don't want him to miss anything if it's me. I'm traveling in my motorhome out wherever, but it's within your coverage area.
Yes, sir.
And have an accident, and not you guys, surely, in 3 hours to get me, but whoever's closest comes in, they take me, and I got to go to the nearest trauma center. And they do a good job of getting me there. Now I got to pay the bill. And that, I don't know how much it is, but I would assume it's somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000, $1,500, $1,600. Is that high or low?
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
If you're transported by AirEvac, or it's going to be about a $10,000 to $12,000 ride to start off with, depending on what they do to you. Yes. $1,000 to
Blake's making too
$1,500
much
would
money.
be.
We're going to have to cut him back some. He and Kevin says, I didn't know it was that much. But now you can see what it's going to cost you if you need this kind of care. But whatever the cost may be, it's well worth it because your life is at stake. So what can I do?
That's
I
my
can't
job.
afford that.
Right. Well, it's like Chrissy said earlier, we're basically an ICU or an ER with wings. And so the cost, you know, we have a multi-million-dollar helicopter sitting here in LaGrange, and it costs several $1,000s a day to keep the helicopter here, a highly trained pilot, a highly trained nurse, and a highly trained medic. What our company offers is a membership program, and it's based on household. If you have a household with 3 or more, we offer a membership, and for only $60 for a year. If you ever have to be flown out or utilize our services with AirEvac,
$60 a year.
$60 a year.
And I'm out there, and they show up, and they gather me up and take me away. I don't have to pay anything.
No, sir. AirEvac will work with your insurance company to make sure payment is made, because sometimes air ambulance services on your insurance policy is kind of, I call it, it's a separate entity in itself. Most insurances are used to dealing with ground ambulance, but we are an air ambulance service. We will work with your insurance company to get payment, and then whatever they don't pay, you're prepaid with a membership. You won't ever get a bill.
Well, in your experience, does insurance companies normally pay? In my experience, they don't.
Well, usually they'll pay 100% of what they deem allowable. And what they deem allowable may be $8,000. Well, if your flight was $12,000, that's $4,000 that you still have to pay.
But I wouldn't have to pay it if I had the insurance policy.
If you had, well, we're not an insurance, we're a membership.
Membership.
We're a membership.
So if I'm a member, I wouldn't have to pay that money.
Correct.
I got a free ride.
Basically, yes. And if you don't have insurance, we don't discriminate. We'll pick you up if you're a member or if you're not a member. But if you're not a member, you will be responsible for the bill. But if you're a member, you will never see a bill.
If we get to the end of this thing and my insurance company says, no, we don't pay for any AirEvac stuff, you still don't send me a bill if I'm a member.
No,
I
sir.
still get a free ride.
That is correct. It's amazing, isn't it?
All right, how do I get a membership?
Well, there's several ways. You can, we have a website, www.lifeteam.net. You can call me. I'm the local sales membership manager at 706-590-8498.
So they can call you or email you?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And do they come down here and fill out an application, or how do you deal with it?
No, basically, I will be out in the area. I'll be having events. If they want to call me on the number that you're posting, I'll be glad to meet with them. The website is a good place to go learn more about the company and the membership program.
Are there any specifics to becoming a member, age, or anything like that?
No, sir. It takes about a minute or two to fill out the application. We just need your names and dates of birth, and you sign the paper and you're a member, and you're covered immediately. There's a 15-day waiting period for hospital-to-hospital transfers, but otherwise, once we have your payment in hand, you're covered from that point.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting, and I know we went into this a bit, and I got one of your brochures the other day when I was here, and it's amazing that you can get by a $12,000, $20,000 debt for $60 a year. And it's not a month, it's a year. It's $60.
That's for 3 or more. It's actually lower for the...
And what do you give me when I give you the $60?
You get a free ride. You will get a packet in the mail with membership decals for your car, so we can identify that you're a member. You get a decal for your house, so if the accident or something happens to you at home, emergency personnel know that you're a member and to call us if we're needed.
And if they miss all that, of course, you pick up the phone when you're able to, or you have one of your relatives make that phone call and say, hey, they took the guy, and I'm going to claim my membership for this, so I don't have to get a bill and pay this thing.
That's correct.
All right. You heard it. Give Missy, and I think I called you Chrissy, it's Missy Wellborn, a telephone call with the number you see on the screen, or email her, or come out to Aratron Parkway, do the simple, short application. You're covered for $60 for a year, and that's you and a family of
3 or more.
3 or more. It's
actually $50 for a family, for a single, $55 for a couple, and for 3 or more, if you have 12 people living in your house, it's still $60.
So if it's 12 people living in the same residence who are related,
yes, sir.
$60 a year.
Yes, sir.
That's phenomenal. I'm Lee Newman. This has been Coffee with Lee. I just want to thank this phenomenal team that you've learned about during this show for participating, bringing us up to date on the most modern in air evacuation. This Life team has offered to the community a great experience for the future in life safety. Missy, thank you, dear, so much for allowing us to come out. I enjoyed every minute of it, and I've been looking forward to it now for a week.
Well, we have too. We're going to present you with a hat.
Thank you.
And I'm going to give you a membership brochure to fill out when you get home, so you can be a member of our Life team.
And I certainly intend to do that. I've talked to my wife about it, and I can't see us, there's anything better. Saves me $12,000 to $20,000, as you say.
Nothing's better than saving them.
Great. Been another good show. Thanks to the team. Lee Newman, Coffee with Lee. See you next time.
Air Evac Life Team, saving lives. That's our mission, when every second counts.